Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name's Brett Pontecorvo, and we are here every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, interviewing pros, hobbyists, and musicians from all different genres on how they use Gig Performer to power their live performances. And today we have a very exciting episode featuring Tim Starace of YYNOT from Rush. If you're watching right now, we would love to know, so do go ahead and let us know in the comments that you're here. Say hello, let us know your name, where you're tuning in from. If you're a Gig Performer user, we'd love to know, and otherwise you're going to get some amazing behind-the-scenes information from Tim, who's doing some really cool stuff with Gig Performer. I already see we've got some folks in the comments. AJ, thanks for being here. Good to see you. It looks like we've got Gig Performer team member Nemanja. Thanks for being here, Nemanja. Thomas Bishop from Oregon. Thank you for being here as well. And we've got another from California, TJ Deernick. Nope, saying that wrong. That's okay. TJ, we're glad you're here. Thanks for being with us. We've got Don coming in from Baltimore, who's actually going to be joining us in just a few weeks on Backstage with Gig Performer. So you do stay tuned for that. And TJ is using Gig Performer 5. Awesome. We're so excited to have you today. Tim's going to show us a lot of really cool stuff. He's primarily a bassist, and he's using Gig Performer for his keyboards. So some interesting things going on there to really capture the essence of Rush. For those of you who are watching, don't forget that next week we're actually welcoming on Florian Boemers of MIDI Boom Translator. He's going to be showing us all about what can be done with MIDI Boom Translator. And for those of you who are a bit more technical, it changes incoming things to other things. And what's really powerful about this in particular is that if you wanted to have a note transformed to a CC message or to something else, the software makes it really easy to do. So if this looks like it may fit into your workflow, we're going to have him coming on to share about how you can implement this in Gig Performer. And we're also going to have some files created, pre-made for you to help you in your preparation processes with Gig Performer. So this is going to be a really valuable episode. But Tim is coming on in just a few moments now. And like I mentioned, he is the bassist and keyboardist for YYNOT, the Rush cover band. In addition to that, he is also the product manager and artist representative for Tech 21's SansAmp, Tech 21 NYC, saying that wrong, but they made the SansAmp amps. I'm sure he'll get to share a little bit about that today. I know he's using that for his bass rig. But without further ado, let's get Tim on here. Tim, welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer.
Hi, Brett. How you doing?
Doing good, man. We're doing good. I'm enjoying the fresh weather and all of that good stuff. But man, for folks who don't know who you are, I know I've given you a bit of an intro. But who are you? What do you do? What's the basic overview of all that?
Well, my name is Tim Starace. I'm a Gemini. No, okay. So I play bass and keys in a Rush tribute. Actually, we're an original progressive rock band with 3 albums.
Okay.
That has a marked propensity for playing vintage Rush.
Got it.
And we love doing it. We travel all over the country doing a Rush tribute, and we sneak in our originals as well. Mm-hmm. And I am 2/3 of Geddy Lee in the band. I play bass, and I play keys and foot pedals and stuff. And it's really exciting. It's great. We have a total blast. It's like reliving my youth. And for a regular 9 to 5, well, it's actually a 7 to 3, I am product manager for Tech 21 NYC. SansAmps, fly rigs, everybody knows if you play an instrument, you know what a SansAmp is. And it's kind of like I'm living the best time of my life. I get to play music. I get to work in the industry. And I'm a total gear geek when it comes to stuff like this, and that's why I love Gig Performer. I can't wait to talk about how much I love Gig Performer.
That's awesome, man. How did you end up doing? I guess the question I'm asking is why Rush?
Well, when I was a little tadpole, like 9 years old, I wanted to be Gene Simmons, like every kid my age back then.
Okay.
So I wanted to play bass. I wanted to be Gene. So I cut 2 strings off my brother's guitar. I got this album called Learn How to Play Bass by Ear with the Ventures at a yard sale for 25 cents and started teaching myself bass. I stuck with it for more than a week, so my parents knew I was serious and got me a bass teacher. And he would teach me all these Kiss songs until one day he played this song on the cassette deck. He says, you got to listen to this. And it was What You're Doing by Rush. And I just was captivated, you know, and I just became, you know, almost obsessed at that point. I didn't leave my house till I was like, you know, 15 or 16 years old. I was just wearing the grooves off the albums, you know, trying to teach myself all this Rush. And it was like basically truly my second love in music. And that brings me to today, where after a 16-year hiatus from music, I sold everything, moved down to Florida, became a mechanic. Never thought I was going to play bass again. And then by accident, I started, like in 2014 or something, you know? And then through this wonderful new world of Facebook, I met this really cool dude named Billy Alexander. You know, I was posting bass videos. And we had this idea. Wow, man, you live on the other side of the country. Let's start doing stuff. It only makes sense.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yes.
So I think we were like one of the original 4-box bands, you know, and we would do these Rush covers online, you know, remotely. And then he goes, wow, let's do something easier. Let's write an album. So Billy wrote this album, and we did a whole album that way. And next thing you know, we're playing live. So that's the whole history of YYNOT, you know, and we're blessed. We have a absolutely fantastic fan base, and we get to do really, really cool things. You know?
So
and that's that.
When you started, you know, doing the 4-box thing, this was pre-gig performer days. What were you doing at that point to get synth sounds?
Well, the 4-box thing, it was kind of before I even like was gonna play a keyboard. You know, so Billy would do some of them in his studio at home. And then I did come to the point where I got to do something. You know, so I got a set of Roland PK5s, which we all know what those are, maybe. And if you don't, it's a 13-pedal MIDI foot controller by Roland. Old. I think I have the largest inventory in North America of those. You know, I just seriously.
Where you are right now?
No, I have 3 sets here, 2 sets in the Midwest, 2 sets in California. I have them planted all over because we play nationally. You know? So I'm always got my eye out for PK5. So holla if you got them. And I didn't know what to do. I had no idea how to do this. No clue. So I just like went on the Google and here's sounds and here's, you know, a host. And I just started. You know? Can I mention who it was? What I was using prior? Okay. And no shade because it was great. Cantabile. Was the first thing I found. You know, because I was gonna there's no way I was gonna be a Mac guy. Never, ever. It's PC. So there's more to that story. Just hang on.
So, I was assuming because I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're on Mac.
That's never gonna happen. No way.
So you were hosting your sounds in Cantabile, triggering them, and then and then we started doing it live, and that worked great for me for years until I think I just reached the limitations of that, you know, and they just started to become more. And again, I'm not throwing shade on Cantabile because Brad's a wonderful guy. He helped me out a ton. You know, I think I just outgrew it with what I needed to do and what I was using. You know, so I started having just, you know, issues and, you know. And you're still on Windows. In the issues phase right now, you're on Windows. You're using Cantabile. You're starting to get issues.
It was Windows. You know,
and during live
must
performance.
be the laptop. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You know,
Not
so
great.
I'll never forget our first live show, man. It was like all the wheels came off on the first song with the laptop. It was hysterical. Most of that was my fault, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, so I used Cantabile for years and started to learn how to do things, you know, so it would become better and really got into it. And then I just kind of was looking for something else. So Gig Performer popped onto my radar.
Okay.
You know? So I've told this story to David many times. So I got it. I'm trying it. I hated it. Totally hated it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Cantabile.
Right.
It wasn't like my previous program.
Right.
You know? So I'm like, nah, this sucks. I can't use this. You know? So then it keeps going on.
Okay.
And then I try it again because I'm a curious kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just want to try it. You know? Now, again, I hated it. I really did. You know, because it wasn't like what I was using. So it was uncomfortable to me.
Yes.
You know? So then.
And was it the wiring view that was
the interface? It was just different, man.
Yeah.
It was just different. And I'm like a woolly mammoth stuck in a tar pit. If it works, I just want to stay there.
Sure.
I don't want to do anything different.
Yep.
You know? So, long story short, I bought an iPhone.
Okay.
So now I love Apple. Okay. So we do this big event every year called the Bubba Bash.
Yes.
It's a big fundraising Rush themed evening to celebrate the life of Neil Peart.
Okay.
We host it. All Neil's friends come, like Mike Portnoy, Frank Bello, and we do 3 hours of Rush. We raise thousands and thousands of dollars for Cedars-Sinai, you know, for glioblastoma research. And it gave me trouble that night. So I had some time off after NAMM, so I gave Gig Performer another shot. Okay? But this time, I didn't approach it as my prior host.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love. Right. It was just like the best thing. It really just worked well for me. It was rock solid. And then I was able to build my whole set list like in a long weekend, which was great. It was just like all of a sudden.
That's a lot of songs, I assume.
Yeah, but all of a sudden the bell just clicked, and I'm like, okay, this is it. You know, I was trying to compare it too much to what I was using. You know, so once I approached it as this is its own tool, you know, the key to a Chevy isn't going to open a Ford. You know, but
yes,
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then I switched over to Mac, and I love it even more.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah. So it was in the moment that you kind of embraced the workflow as its own thing, as opposed to having kind of this translation happening in your brain where you were trying to make it do what something else did. You embraced it for the way that it works.
Because I was, for lack of a better description, I was used to stuff being way more difficult, so it just didn't make sense. You know?
Sure.
Honestly.
Yeah.
When you look at how you set Gig Performer up, it's stupid easy.
Yeah.
You just drag a wire from here to there. There it is. What key do you want it to do? That's it. Do you want to transpose it? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to use Chord Maker? Yes.
Yep.
You know, I was building this, difficulty moat in front of me because I was so used to that.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
So much sense. Okay.
And I got a ton of shows under my belt with Gig Performer. Knock on wood, not a single software-related issue yet.
Wow.
And boy, does it make my evening so much better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's I love all of that context. I love the transition. So you moved your stuff. You said you were able to do it in a long weekend. That's insanely fast. How many songs are in your set list, roughly?
27.
Okay. And I guess you had your sounds already built. Do you have any go-to VSTs that you love using?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Primarily. Oh, okay. We'll do that again.
Okay.
There was this one little VST that was keeping me from. Well, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
I use primarily Arturia.
Okay.
The V collection, Mini V, the Oberheim.
Yep.
I love augmented voices for the chorus. Pigments.
Yep.
I use that a lot too for some choir stuff. And Cherry Audio.
Okay.
Cherry Audio Lowdown was the most compatible Taurus VST for me. See, what I was using was this really, really old 32-bit DLL called Taurus, which was the most accurate little VST for a Taurus pedal that I've ever heard. I have real Taurus pedals. I AB them, you know. But unfortunately, it's not going to work on Mac. But Cherry Audio's Lowdown is outstanding. I love it.
Wow.
You know.
Okay.
So that's my main Taurus. Okay. And then SonicProjects, I use some of his stuff.
Okay.
You know, which is really good stuff as well. And I really don't think there's anything else in there. I've messed around with some IK Multimedia stuff, but you know, primarily it's a lot of Oberheim, Mini Moog, Taurus.
Yep.
You know, that's basically.
Yep.
You know,
and you really can, you know, even in terms of cost, when I like listen to everything that you've kind of fired off there, you're looking at not a massive investment up front to switch over, right? Like it's certainly less than hardware, and smaller footprints depending on how you decide to build it, if that matters to you. Which is cool. So let's talk a little bit about your gig performer setup. I'm going to bring your screen on here so we can see it. So I know you have Limelight on right now. We can talk about any song, but I guess my first question really is, what are the unique challenges that playing this music present for you, and how is gig performer helping you to overcome those challenges?
I think the biggest thing that gig performer does for me to help me overcome any challenges I have during a song is the fact that I have a lot of confidence in the program. You know, I'm not, you know, my butt clenches enough times a night playing Rush. You know,
Sure.
I don't need added pressure of, is something going to go haywire on me?
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
And it's been unbelievably rock solid. You know, it's great. Changes are instantaneous. I don't know if, you got the screen on. Yeah, so, I mean, like, boom, there, I'm in my next song. I'm just hitting my little button on my pedal here. Boom.
Yes.
Boom. It's like stuff like this is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
You know? Everything is great, and everything is available to me, because prior it was a channel strip view, you know? And you're really not seeing anything. This is basically my screen on my laptop off to my left at a show. So I know we're doing Limelight. I can see my levels. You know, I'm going to make a little noise. I can see what's going on there. You know, everything's, you know, just really good. Everything's working.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And that was the original intent when Gig Performer was built, that you would go on stage and have one less thing to worry about, so you could actually focus on the music. So it's very affirming to hear that.
That's totally a great thing.
So as I understand it, based off what you've said so far, you are using both foot pedals and a MIDI keyboard controller.
Yeah, you want me to?
Yeah, you want to bring a little thing in, and you could talk about the hardware, and then we'll.
There it is.
Beautiful. Okay.
That's it.
So explain to us what we're looking at.
Okay, we're looking at a reverse image of this because I can't figure out how to flip the camera.
Totally fine. Yeah, totally fine. We get it. We get the heart of it.
Yeah, this is my rig.
Okay.
You know, it's an M Audio Oxygen Pro 61.
Yep.
Why did I go with that? It's cheap. I can get them at Guitar Center if mine doesn't arrive or it blows up, or you know, and I'm flying with them sometimes. Yes. You know, these are two Roland PK5s, which are kind of old MIDI controllers, but I really like them because they have that feel of my Taurus pedal. You know.
Okay.
I tried some other little smaller foot controllers, but they were just too dainty, and I'm too clumsy.
Okay.
So these things are rock solid, and they're rugged. And over here, this is a little device that I love. I'll hold that up to the camera. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a little 3-button MIDI pedal made by a company called Logity. They don't make them anymore. So, like most things, I have inventory of this.
Right.
And I love that thing because I have the 3 buttons programmed. Next song. You know?
Yep.
This button, the 3rd button is for any triggers or samples that I have to hit, you know, on time. Boom. And then my middle one, I have it set up as a, oh my God, stop everything button.
Got it.
You know, just in case. I haven't used it with Gig Performer, honestly.
Well, that's great.
So, yeah, maybe one day I could turn that into something else.
Yeah.
And one of the unique things, this set is usually out front stage, probably about, 5-6 feet away from the rest of the rig.
Okay.
In Rush, Alex would do a lot of the Taurus pedal work live.
Okay.
And Getty would do the keyboard stuff. There are a lot of times when Getty does both, but in our situation, I'm the only guy doing any of the keys.
Right.
So Gig Performer, I'm able to split individual notes to do different things.
Can you show us an example of that?
Like Tom Sawyer, I guess. You know, or subdivisions. How can I show you that? You want me to jump over to the thing?
Jump over to the wiring and just explain how you have it set up.
Okay, it's a mess.
It's okay. It gets the job done.
But it works. But I have the main. Can you hear that?
Yep.
So there's multiple things going on there. I'm layering. There's Lowdown in there.
Yep.
There's my little secret weapon, the piano.
Okay.
And there's an Oberheim, and I'm using transposers because I'm adding notes. Because I just want to do it with one key.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, can you bring your photo booth into the screen so we can see?
Yeah. Where did that go?
It's somewhere. Just portion of the screen. I don't know where it is on yours, but if you drag it over.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So which key are you using to do this?
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go over there and do that because I'm using the keyboard that's sitting right in front of me.
Gotcha. Is that
I can do that.
Okay. Great.
Now watch, but wait, watch what I got to do. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Wait, where is it? Come on, man, do it. There it is. Look at that.
Yes.
You see? See what's happening?
Yes. But for folks who don't know, do you want to explain what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm using Rig Manager.
Okay.
Okay? Where you have aliases where you could change hardware instantly. So I'm going to switch this PK5 back to the original one.
Okay.
So now when I go over to that other camera setup I have to my rig, where I am coming over to, it's supposed to work. I didn't hit apply.
You have to hit apply.
I know. Oh, come on, man. I'm new at this.
I love it. That's okay. Did you hit apply?
I think I did. Hold on. I can't believe I did that. Hold on, let me get over there. That's my bad.
No worries.
I knew this. I practiced this all week, dude. You have no idea. I practiced the fast switching on everything. It's not working. What did I do? I broke something.
Wait, something got... All right, why don't you try hitting save, and if it doesn't work, you can just explain where you would hit it. I'm sure that we could get this sorted, but just for demonstration purposes.
Yeah. So I would just switch it over to my other Oxygen Pro, and it would work.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to this one because I must have unplugged something when I was messing around stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did because I didn't. Oh, I did. My bad, man.
No worries.
Sorry.
Not a problem.
You see it loading now? There it goes. Yeah.
Something disconnected Oxygen Pro.
Yeah. See it? Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Oh, now it's connected.
So maybe it'll work now. But this is all on me, folks. This works perfect. But I came home and I messed around with a bunch of cables. So
when you say you have one thing going to multiple places, I'm assuming you're using Chord Maker to make that happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing. All right, well, we're going to have to not play with it. I broke that keyboard.
That's okay. So can you open up the MIDI Chord Maker and just show us what
I'm going to get right on that right now.
Okay.
All right, so the MIDI Chord Maker. You see what's happening? I just have that one key right there.
Oh wait, bring it into so where we can see it.
You got it.
There.
Yeah, right there.
Ah, octaves.
So you see what's happening, right?
Yes.
So I'm just hitting this one key.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, that's that.
Okay.
And then for this stuff, that sounds nice, right?
Yes. Yes.
I got more stuff going on there.
Okay.
Okay. That'll be just that one note because he uses his pinky for that chord, but I can't because I have to split my keyboard at that point for the solo because I'm not using two separate keyboards. So you see what's happening there.
Yes.
So I'm able to do all that.
Yes. Okay. So this allows you to have access to more notes than what you actually have on your keyboard. So you've got your ranges set up to be small, and using the MIDI chord maker, you're able to access notes that are technically outside the range you're playing in.
Absolutely. Like for the solo, you know, the...
Cool.
Otherwise, I couldn't do that.
That's really cool. And are you using the Mini V4 for the solo?
I believe so. Either 4 or 3. I kind of bounce between them. Yeah, I'm using Mini V4. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeffrey wrote in, he's interested to see what your CPU is running those intense rack spaces. So it looked to me like when you were playing, it was like 28.
Yeah. This is something I definitely want to touch on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the other host I was using, I mean, I have monster laptops that I was buying for this application, and I was running into a lot of CPU usage with certain songs. You know, because this is nothing. If you think this is heavy, wait till I show you Camera Eye. You know, and that was resulting in tons of breaking up. The sound was just horrible, you know, and stuff like that was occurring. Since I switched to Gig Performer, I think I remarked to you at one point, Brett, you know, it's nominal. It doesn't go higher than like 27, 28 ever.
And we're on Zoom right now, which definitely takes up some CPU.
And I'm on a really cheap Mac Mini.
Yep.
You know, my gig laptop is a MacBook Pro, you know, which is a monster, an M4, and it's even wincier there.
Yep.
But that amazes me because I don't get any of that the sound breakup, you know, that nasty sizzling, crackling stuff.
Yes.
You know, at all. Yeah. It's
I love that.
Great.
So you mean the sound here is just so beautiful and well made.
Well,
I
thank
assume, yeah, of course. I assume you don't have any free limbs to use widgets, right? Like you've got the bass, you're playing foot pedals, you're playing keyboard. So I'm assuming anything you're doing in terms of changing or adjusting sounds is either aftertouch or it's just not happening. Is that true?
No, I'm a widget guy.
You are?
No,
all right, let's talk about widgets.
We're going to get to that.
Okay,
so let's go. Again, I use Chord Maker and MIDI in blocks to make keys on my keyboard and my foot pedals do things they're not supposed to do.
Yes.
You know, it's just, and everything's a pattern for me. I know what key I may do this. So let's go to like, all right, here's one. All right. Boom. There's a lot of stuff going on in this song.
Yep.
You know, and you see all the streaming audio players.
Yes. What are you doing with this?
Well, the intro to Camera Eye. You can hear that, right?
Yep.
And then this is the live Rush fans will get this. Ready? Okay. And then
You talking to me?
these are all things that happen during the intro of Camera Eye.
Wow.
You know, so I have pads on the keyboard,
Okay.
And I can program the pads to do whatever I want it to do. But yeah, so widgets. Let me go into my edit view so you can see those.
Yep.
There's a lot.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
The intro, the meow, the De Niro, the end, the dab, this. That's a trigger.
Okay.
So all that stuff's programmed all over the place,
Wow.
within my set list.
Okay.
But this is a song I'm really proud of. I really like this one,
Okay.
Sounds great. I had to put another cat in there. So
Wow.
you guys getting that?
Yeah, it sounds crystal clear over here. So I am curious about how you start the process of building a song like this. When I look at your spaghetti, for lack there of a better term,
There's a lot.
It is. Well, when I'm working on stuff, it's sort of like the song, you build the song one layer at a time, but having been playing Rush for I assume basically your whole life, is there a process that you use to build this, or do you just start with a sound, adjust, go to another sound, adjust?
That's pretty much it. I just start with a main sound. Let me go to Analog Kid.
Okay.
Okay. This is one of my favorites as well. Let me go. So what we have here, I have OPX and augmented voices.
Yes.
So I'm going to bypass augmented voices. So this is for the big chorus. You hear the Oberheim, right?
Yes.
Is that coming through?
Yep.
So that sounds good, right?
Yep.
But it's actually a layered sound. It's layered with this. So that sounds great, right?
Yes.
But you put them together and you get that little sizzle behind it. It just sounds, I'm able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that with hardware.
Wow.
Unless I had a semi with me.
Wow. Okay. So two questions for you. One, do you ever use the meter mode in wiring activity, or just do you know what I'm talking about?
I saw that.
Okay.
But I don't really utilize it because I really haven't read the manual, David.
I was just curious. Question number 2, I see you have all of these gain and balance knobs, and then you run them into a mixer. What does that do for you? Is that for a visual workflow, or are you doing something with gain staging there specifically?
Yeah, I'm probably doing it all wrong.
I don't think there's a wrong way. I mean, the sound you're
getting
would tell me you're doing it right. But
it works for me.
Yeah.
I try to run everything into Youlean so I could see if I'm, too hot on anything. That's how I try to, get my sounds all within the same level.
I see. I see.
And it's painstaking, man. I totally obsess over that.
Okay.
And then it all comes down to just my drummer at soundcheck going, turn this up, turn that down.
Yeah.
And I could just...
yeah, you can skip all of it and just go to that. Got it.
He's great. Another one of my little tricks.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I learned this from Live Rush. Okay. Is there is a piano behind everything.
Interesting.
Okay. Like for instance, in Analog Kid, the bass side of this. There's a piano behind it, which makes it pop. So I may or may not have access to like the actual tracks. Just saying. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to verify that.
Got it.
You know, there's pianos behind like pretty much everything. It's great. Like even in the solo section, I'm going to move over here to my pedals.
Yeah.
You hear the single piano note, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It just makes it pop. If you take the piano out of that, it's a nice stringy synth, you know? So this is all important stuff for live application. It may not be on the album, but it's how it's done live.
What's really cool for me to see, and you know, we talk often about how you can run a single MIDI in block to as many instruments as you want, but you're really doing a lot of that. Like I see the MIDI in PK5-2 is going to the Lowdown, the piano, and the MIDI chord maker that's going to Augmented voices, all from a single MIDI in block.
Can I tell you why?
Yes, please.
Because there's a big, huge chord on the keyboards going into the chorus.
Got it.
And there's such an awesome Getty lick that I want to play the Getty lick as well. So I programmed the first big chord of the chorus onto one pedal of the PK5.
Wow.
And it sounds like this.
Yep.
So that's essentially, now I'm back at my keyboard. It's that. So I just come in on the second, you know, so it's and then I'm on the keys.
Yes.
You know? So that's how I transition that.
Yes. And Joe Luca just said, get him, Tim. I'm actually wondering, since Joe is here, did you borrow Joe's panel templates?
I didn't borrow it. I stole it.
When I saw it, I thought, I think I've seen these front panels before.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. I love that.
No, he's super cool. He put it up on the Gig Performer forums, which is an awesome place. Everybody's so helpful, and I actually asked him about it.
Yeah.
You know, and he helped me out.
That's
you know, because this is all like when I was brand new, a little tadpole, and I love it. It works so great for me.
Okay, that's awesome. You know, something else I'm noticing here, which I think you've kind of hit on, but I just want to make the point a bit further, is that using the MIDI in blocks the way that you're doing for this song to get you that big chord and switch it, it lets the software bend to the context.
Yeah.
So, you know, there'd be no way for us to sit down and write, hey, you know, using a MIDI in block lets you wire it to multiple places. And so because of that, if you so happen to need to play a chord on two different instruments because at a particular place, I guess you get my point, but you're able to access one sound from multiple locations, which I have found, and I'm hearing you say it, and others have said it as well, time and time again, people need to play the same sound from two different locations.
Oh,
and when you're not in a graphic matrix, it's actually a pain to set up.
Yeah.
Channel strips don't do that very well.
No. And like when I'm trying to like program like this crazy stuff, you know, like I sit here and go, okay, how can I do this? Let me take, you know, the C sharp and just make that the trigger for what I need, because I don't hit that for the rest of the song, but I hit every note around it, you know? So it's great. You know, like also for Analog Kid, you know, I set triggers for my, for the streaming file player, you know? That's one of the notes on my PK5, you know?
Wow. So with the streaming audio file player, are you using that note and mapping it to a widget that's controlling?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You know, this is the streaming audio file player.
Okay.
And then we can go here to Dat Kid. And there it is. This is the one on the keyboard.
Okay.
Going into the solo. And then this is the long one, you know? So
okay.
There's a long one at the end of the song. Yeah, so that's one of my favorites.
Okay.
But there's so many things you can do.
Yes.
You know.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you put Gig Performer up against a project, that's the moment it comes alive. You were just like, there's so many things you could do, and I'm like, yes. And then the moment you marry, you can do so many things with, I have to do this specific thing. That's when it comes to life, and you get this stuff that's so playable, right?
That's my whole life. Everything is, I have to do this specific thing because I don't have a guy in the back switching sounds for me. I don't have a guy, loading samples for me. I got to do all this on my own.
Yes.
So I have to figure out ways, and then I have to remember all this crazy stuff. Like there's songs where if a dude was to come, like the best pianist in the world could come over and go, I'm going to play that song. You got no idea, bro, because nothing is a keyboard anymore. There are certain songs that are just like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. And it allows me to do that, where there's certain parts of songs and certain whole songs, where I'm just learning a pattern.
Yes.
And that's how Mr. Getty does it a lot, except for, like the solo and subdivisions and Tom Sawyer stuff, a lot of it's triggers, you know?
Absolutely. So
yeah. And the chord maker, it's just great stuff.
So you mentioned Geddy Lee was doing similar things. Was he obviously not a gig performer user at the time? But
Ableton Live.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
I know, right?
All right. So we've got this. Folks who are watching right now, if you have questions that you want Tim to answer, do put them in the chat because I'm sure he will be able to answer them. I actually see a question coming in. This is an easy.
I don't see the chat. Where do I see that?
I don't know.
Okay, you just feed them to me.
I'm bringing them up.
Yeah.
So this question, which is pretty
feed me, baby.
Pretty similar, is what is the -12 and +12 under the MIDI in blocks?
Oh, that's transposing.
Yes.
Because I want the note to be an octave lower or an octave higher.
Yes.
For that one particular thing.
Yes.
So I'm able to do that, and it's easier. It's easier than having to add another MIDI in block at an octave lower. Right. I can utilize the same MIDI in block, send out as many strings as I want, and transpose it however I need it.
Yes. Yes.
Into the same. My whole idea is to try to use as few instances of VSTs as possible. Mm-hmm. And it's so much easier with Gig Performer than it was with like a channel strip type of thing.
Yes. Yes. It's also visual. So like you mentioned, there is MIDI transpose in the MIDI in block. But if you need to transpose something in a path,
that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Then the MIDI transposer is key. Tom wrote, Geddy would have loved Gig Performer.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tom also wants to know, where do you suggest to go other than Tim's house to get additional video instructions? There is a great blog article called Getting Started with Gig Performer that links out all of our resources in a very easy to understand sequence. So I would say start there, and also immediately join the forum and just kind of get a pulse on what's happening because we're very active. Jamaican Kid wants to know, can you show the MIDI process to connect to controllers? I think basically
I can do that.
But it's just plugging it in, right?
Yeah. It's just to connect a controller to a VST.
I think he's asking physical, so I'm just gonna say, Gig Performer automatically detects any device plugged in. So it's an automatic detection. You don't have to do anything. Once it's plugged in, Gig Performer notices that it's there, and you have access to it in the MIDI in block.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So when you're playing on stage, is there a moment of the show that you feel like is the most memorable for the people in the audience? Is there like a pinnacle moment of your show? And if so, what song is it and what's happening?
You know, I'd like to say that there is,
Yeah.
but Rush fans are just so rabid.
Okay.
You know, and they're like a unique fan base.
Okay.
You know, and they just love every moment of it. You know, so I guess when we start,
The opening. Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Sure.
you know,
Okay.
they just love it.
And what do you generally open with and why?
Lately, we've been opening with Free Will.
Okay.
And I don't know why. There's really no reason.
Okay.
So sometimes it's Spirit. Sometimes, you know, it just lately it's been Free Will, but you never know.
Okay.
The next run may be something else.
Okay.
You know.
Awesome. Let's do a little sound design talk, and we'll see. If you have any other questions for Tim, feel free to put them in. So I would say, for non-Rush fans, and I have like some knowledge of Rush, but when I think of Rush, the immediate thing I always think about is the opening synth line in Tom Sawyer, that has that sort of filter sweep thing. How did you go about building it? I heard you play it earlier, and it sounds exactly right. What did you do?
Like
What
this?
VST are you using?
I'm using OPX Pro.
Okay. Awesome. Wow. Wow.
And essentially, I'm using their.
Can you scooch it
Let me
over
see.
so we can? There we go. Beautiful.
There it is. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm using. Yeah. Actually, this is in their famous rack.
Awesome.
You know, and I just tweaked some of the filters.
Okay.
You know, to get the cutoff at the end.
Yep.
When you're switching, and to increase the attack a little bit.
Okay.
You know, so I start off with, you know, what they had in their library, and I tweaked it. I do that with all the sounds.
Yep.
You know. Yeah. So that was that, and then there's the Taurus pedal work. You know. Which that's in the first part of the verse, and then the second part of the verse, I pull the low side out a little bit.
Okay.
And add another higher octave. You know. As you can hear that, you know, that's when the bass is playing. Da, 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 you know. So, and I got that on a hold.
You have that on a hold, you
have that-
said?
Yeah, I have that one on a hold because I'm doing a lot of stuff. So sometimes I'll utilize the hold function on my PK5s.
Got it,
you know,
got it.
for certain instances like that. But
Somebody wants to know if you have an issue with instances of the same synth on multiple rack spaces.
absolutely not.
Okay.
No, you can see I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 mini V3s going on here.
Yeah.
You know?
Great. Yes.
No issues at all.
Yes.
You know, and all this stuff over here. This is all for me for the keyboard solo.
Wow.
Because remember, like I said, I don't have an Alex over there with another set of Taurus pedals.
Right.
So there's the, you know, the. There's that, but there's a drone note that's hanging out behind that. So I use the sticky note function that David wrote for me
Wow.
to hold that note until I hit it again. You know?
Wow.
So that's what all this is going.
And so
Oh,
that's a
sticky
scriptlet.
note. See it right
so,
there?
Yep. So it, I'm assuming the function of that scriptlet is you hit it and it sends the note on, and when you hit it again, it sends the note off.
Right. Especially the big long note at the end of the song. See, that'll just play until I hit it again. You know.
Nice.
So I can tell it what note. This should be a feature. I'm saying it. I'm saying it
you
out
go.
live.
All right. I
This
love it.
needs to be a feature. Okay?
I love
Because
it.
dudes need this, you know? So I can pick I'm going to bring the scriptlet editor in. I can pick what note's going to trigger it and what note is going to be triggered. If you could see that.
Yep.
So I use this a lot.
Okay.
You know, when I need to, you know, do stuff that I just don't have enough hands or feet for.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, and we also have an auto sustain, which works a little differently than this.
I tried that.
Also available on the forum.
David actually called me, and I was explaining to him,
right,
dude,
I
need
bring
this.
David in, but that also is going to mean that Dave Bolden is in. So,
okay.
Dave Bolden, welcome also to the stream. Sorry, the presets.
Hello, Daves.
Oh wait, no, never mind. Dave, you're not there unless you want to come in. Go ahead, David.
Tim, if you're using that scriptlet, it is a feature.
Oh, I know. But it would be nice. It would be nice for other people to right-click it and just pull it up. I think that would be cool.
You can. If it's on the forums, anybody can download it and use it.
I understand that.
There are hundreds of scriptlets. I don't think we can include them all. I suppose we could, but I think it probably confuse people.
Well, you don't have to. Just that one.
Ah, okay.
You got room for one more. Let me see. Oh, there's plenty of room.
Got it. All right, that's all I wanted to say.
But anyway, thank you so much for making that for me.
I love it. So, did you pick the OPX Pro 3 because it had the sound built? Because you also have the Arturia emulation, and maybe you have more than that. I know you mentioned SonicProjects. Why did you pick that version of the system?
Well, no, I picked OPX because, to me, I feel like they do the better of the Oberheim stuff.
Got it.
It's just their engine is just better for it. To my ear.
Got it.
You know.
Okay. Awesome.
You know.
Awesome.
So there's a reason why when I'm doing a lot of Oberheim stuff, I liked OPX a lot, and then there's other reasons where I like Arturia's version. You know, that's the beauty of an open market. You know, I get to use what I feel works best for me in that situation.
Yep, absolutely. Dudley wants to know if you use VSTs for your bass.
Absolutely not.
Tell us what you're using.
Well, I just happen to have it here.
Nice.
This little puppy right here. The Sans Amp Power Driver.
And this is the company that you work with.
I am product manager and artist rep for Tech 21. Yeah, but this is it. This is my whole thing.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
I'm an analog guy.
Keep it simple.
When it comes to that.
Keep it simple. Okay. Oops, I hit the wrong button. David is there. Okay, awesome. If you have any other questions for Tim, do let us know. Pop them in the chat. Okay, so I always forget to tell people before I put them on the spot, but you know, here we are. So for folks who are just getting into Gig Performer, maybe they're like you and they're an analog guy, they feel overwhelmed by the tech, or they, you know, are new just to VSTs and hosting and in general, but are wanting to make the switch. What words of wisdom or advice would you give to them if they were just getting started with Gig Performer?
Well, I think read the manual.
Okay.
Before David yells at you. It's really incredibly easy, and you have the widest palette possible to try to explore. You know, you're not stuck in a box. You could do whatever you want with Gig Performer. You know, and economically, it just makes sense. You know, this isn't, you know, a bank breaker at all by any means. I feel like it's worth, you know, multiple times its value. You know, and even more so in what you can do with it. The possibilities are limitless.
Wow.
You know, you could do whatever you want. So, you know, if you were going the hardware route, you'd have to buy this keyboard, that keyboard, this keyboard, that keyboard. Here, you can sample hundreds of sounds and anything like I do. You could make any key do anything you want. You know, there is no boundary, you know, when you're using Gig Performer at all.
Absolutely. And if you were going to recommend somebody getting started, and I guess we'll limit it to genre because I realize this is probably very contextual, But if somebody was playing a similar genre of music to you and they're like, man, I want to invest in one group of VSTs or one VST in general, where would you direct them first and why?
Well, if you if you want a suite, I would probably say the most comprehensive suite out there is probably Arturia. You know, the V collection, just because it encompasses everything. And if you need a Taurus, then it's Cherry Audio.
Yep.
That's it. Even though in their Mini V4 they did change the filter settings so it doesn't cut the bass, but it's still, Cherry Audio has the best Taurus out there in my opinion right now.
Wow.
You know.
Wow. I love that. So, and Cherry Audio, by the way, also has Synth Stack, which is very similar to the V collection if you're already in the Cherry Audio ecosphere. But yeah, that's a great recommendation. I love that. Well, for folks,
well, I'd be willing to try it.
Great.
If Cherry Audio is listening.
Great.
Hello.
Cherry Audio probably is listening, and I'm definitely going to send them some of this stuff.
I know.
And Cherry Audio is also one of our partners. So if you are a SynthStack owner, you do get 10% off Gig Performer, and vice versa. If you're a Gig Performer license holder, you get 10% off SynthStack. So definitely worth checking them out. Tim, for folks who are watching, you play all over the country. We've got links to all of your stuff below. Where are you playing next? Where can folks go to hear you perform live and see this all in action?
Okay. May 2nd, we will be at the Debonair in Teaneck, New Jersey, where we're going to do some East Coast shows.
Nice.
And then 89 North on the 3rd in Patchogue, Long Island.
Nice.
And then after that, I think it's Delaware at the Milton Theater, and then we go out to the West Coast for 3 shows in Southern California, and then Florida. Just go to YYNOTband.com, and all our tour dates are there.
Awesome. And you're also active in the community forum, is that true?
Me? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you can connect with Tim through his social pages. He's also on the forum. But Tim, thank you so much for being with us, man. This is a great time, a great interview.
Dude, thank you, man. This is a blast. I am honored.
Yeah. All right.
To be on here.
Thank you so much, Tim. Folks, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. But Tim, much appreciated. Have a wonderful time. I also see, before we sign off, you have a request to go to Quebec. So we'll throw it out there. Anyway.
We're going to be in Buffalo in July. Come to me.
Well, I love it. We'll end on that note. Tim's playing in Buffalo in July. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye.